Wow, that was quite a fanfare. I appreciate that. Great to see everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful summer. We've certainly had our share of good times, family times this summer. SEC Media Day is, one of my favorites because this means we are closer to football season. This is kind of the unofficial kickoff for football season from my standpoint, and maybe from yours as well. This is the first time we've been in Nashville, and I think this is a great place and certainly in the heart of SEC country and a great venue for all of us. I think you all know that we went on vacation to Italy. Just to clear that up, that was our 50th wedding anniversary gift to Miss Terry from some of our friends, which I successfully got out of for 2 years. Failed to be able to get out of it this year. Didn't really want to go, but it was a fabulous time. Fabulous, and I would recommend anybody do it. Lots of good culture, great architecture, art, a lot of good things to see. And I thought nobody would know us anywhere that we went, and we got roll-tided everywhere we went. So even in the Ferrari plant, we had a tour of the Ferrari plant, and these cats don't even speak English, and we're getting roll-tide. So I guess we must have a pretty decent brand. I'm talking about the University of Alabama now, but it was an enjoyable trip, and I'd recommend it to anyone. We've had a very good off-season, with our team, good off-season program, good spring practice, very good summer. The team is taking shape. We're still evolving as a team. Lots of new players, some experienced players to go with some of the good young players that we have in the program. New coaches, evolving into the system and trying to get the young players on our team to be able to develop in the system. And so far, the players are very enthusiastic and very committed to developing the talent that we have on our team. And I think that that's a critical piece of sort of growing your team and developing your team, is that you can take the talent that you have and create the right mindset to go with that talent, because talent alone is not going to help them be successful, because they're heading someplace in the SEC as well as in the NFL if they have the opportunity to get there, where everybody has talent. So if you don't have the right mindset to go with it, then you're never going to bring that talent to fruition, nor will you be able to create the kind of competitive spirit that you need. And we're talking about having resiliency and perseverance and ability to overcome adversity and the discipline to pay attention to detail and do the little things right. And one thing that kind of goes with all that is humility. When you have humility, you always think there's a better way. So you're always searching, you're always listening, you're always trying to learn. And therefore, you develop really good relationships with teachers, parents, coaches, and people who are trying to help you. And you have gratitude and you appreciate that. And that creates for great relationships, on your team. And if you just think you're really, really good and you're better than everybody else, then sometimes you don't take those and develop those relationships with the same amount of gratitude, and you don't have the same kind of team chemistry that goes with players and coaches alike. So we want to stay focused on the process of what we need to do to play winning football at every position. And I'm not here to create expectations for our team. Lots of people will do that, but expectations in some way are a premeditated way to create disappointment. And I think you can look at it in your life, and that's why I say we need to stay process-oriented, not focused on the outcome, but focused on the things that we need to do to get the outcome that we want. And, if you have high expectations for what you want to accomplish and it doesn't work out, it makes you focus on the outcome, and it doesn't work out, and you're very disappointed. So we would rather stay focused on what we need to do to get the outcome necessary to be the best that we can be as a team at every position and with every player. We've had really good success in a lot of areas in our program, but one that I'd like to mention is academics. You're really going to college to prepare yourself for the day you can't play football. That's what we always tell our players. So we want our players to have the personal development that's going to help them create the right mindset to be successful in whatever they choose to do. And we also want them to develop a career off the field, which I think is very important to long-term success because, NFL stands for not for long. There's only a 3.5, 4-year life expectancy in that league, so it's important for players to develop a career off the field. And we've had a tremendous amount of success. I think we're in the top 5 in the country in APR at 995. Our team, for the second time in the history of the University of Alabama, has over a 3-point grade point average. And we have like 650 players that have earned degrees since 2007, and we've been there. So this is one of the challenges, I think, to have a program that creates tremendous value for players on and off the field. The 3 players that we have here today, J.C. Latham, Kool-Aid, Dallas Turner, all are on track to graduate. They're all really good players at their position. They've been great ambassadors for the University of Alabama in terms of the class and character that they have. And we're very, very proud of who they are as people, students, and players. The NFL draft was pretty good to us. Again, this year we had 10 players drafted, 3 first-round guys. We've had 123 players drafted in our time in Alabama and 44 first-round draft picks, which this is a part of what we want to do too, help players develop a career on the field. And that's really important to us. We have some new coaches that I've been asked about, 2 new coordinators, which it's always the most difficult to replace people on your staff that are in positions of leadership. But Tommy Reese is a bright young guy who's done a really, really good job. Players relate well to him. He relates well to them. He's a good presenter. He's very bright and understands the game conceptually very, very well, and has done a really good job of implementing our offense and adding to it things that I think will benefit us in the future. Kevin Steele is a longtime defensive coordinator in this league. He's coached with us a couple times before, so he knows the system, he knows what's expected. And Robert Bala is a new inside linebackers coach. So our team has worked really hard. I'm encouraged by the progress that the team has made. I think every team has to create its own identity by what they do in terms of how they come together as a team, how people buy into the principles and values of the organization, respect and trust those things, respect and trust each other, have positive energy about how they go about their work and how they impact and affect other people. And everybody's got to learn to be responsible for their own self-determination. Football is a great game to take responsibility to do my job, but you also have a responsibility to the other 10 guys to do your job because they're all depending on you, so we're all depending on each other. Football is one of the most interdependent games of any game played, where everybody has to do their job for things to work out like you want it to work out. So I think we've got some good young talent on our team. I think we've got some experience on our team. I think we have a pretty good mindset on our team. Our team seems to be pretty hungry this year and motivated. Like all teams, we probably have some issues that are created by graduations and people leaving the program. Obviously, the number one that people are most interested in is the quarterback. We had a great quarterback, won a Heisman Trophy. Bryce did a fantastic job for us. So we have 3 guys that are competing for that position right now. All those players are getting better, and it's important for us that all those players get better. I don't think anybody has actually separated themselves yet to this point, and I don't think it's something that we're trying to rush. I used the analogy earlier, you know, Grandma Saban used to bake the best cakes in the world. And I used to stand by the oven when I was a kid and say, when's this cake going to be done? When's this cake going to be done? And she said, if I don't let it go through and take it out of the oven too soon, it's going to turn to mush, so it won't be a really good cake. So I think we got to let this sort of develop and make sure we let the cake bake until somebody separates themselves, and all the players are working hard. They all have a good attitude. They're all competing well. At other positions on offense, we probably, I think, are improved. The receivers are same guys, older, more experienced. We've got good runners. Offensive line doesn't have a lot of experience returning, but we have some really good young players who have developed nicely. Tight end, we have a transfer that can help us there, and some young guys that are developing. Defensively, we've got 6 starters back, all 5 guys that left got drafted, so challenging to replace all those guys, but again, I'm pleased with the young people that we have in a program that can develop, even though they may lack some experience. I think they're probably guys that can do a good job for us. We do have both specialists back. Special teams has been an asset for us, and certainly we want to continue to be able to affect games and impact games with how we play on special teams, and having 2 good specialists certainly is a good start toward that. So with that, I'll allow you to ask questions.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll start right here in the front. I think we'll start right here in the front of me, Coach. Dennis.
Nick, hi, Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. By one preseason magazine metric, you've got one of the least experienced returning teams in the country, you know, senior starters, percentage of yards coming back. Are you aware of that? Does that matter? Should it matter?
Can you repeat the question for me?
You've got one of the least experienced teams returning, just based on starters, returning yards, stuff like that, by one preseason magazine in the country. Should that matter? Does it matter? It's something you think about?
Well, I think experience matters. I really do. But I also think that when you have young players who are hungry and have great energy and enthusiasm, that's helpful to the team chemistry as well. And when you have as many people that go out for the draft early, and I'm not complaining about that. I love it when we have players that are good enough to go out for the draft. You're going to sort of always have a young team, because you have 4 or 5 starters who would be coming back that all of a sudden are not back. And I think one of the things that I tell all of our coaches and the players, our entire team, it's really important that we develop the young players on our team, because we're always going to have a young team, and those guys need to be able to contribute early on. So their development is critical to us having a successful team, and we do have some good young players, and I think the challenge is for us as coaches to be able to help those guys develop to where they can play winning football.
Coach, we're going to go over to our right-hand side in the middle section. Wilson, right there.
Good morning, Coach. Johnny Ballpark Franks with Franks Media here in Nashville and Huntsville. First of all, I want to congratulate you with your 16th appearance representing Alabama at SEC Media Days. You now have the record for one coach at a single institution in SEC Media Days history. When you think about your tenure at Alabama, what are you most proud of so far, and what is the recipe for future success while avoiding complacency?
Well, the thing that I would be most proud of is the fact that we have a program that has helped players have a chance to be more successful in life because they were involved in the program. That's the number one thing, because that's the number one goal that we have in our program, and that I personally have for the players in our program. And we're going to continue, to do that. And to answer the second part of your question is, every season is a new challenge. It's like you took a new job. You have returning players that need to develop new roles on the team, whether it's leadership or play a new position. And you have a lot of young players who are coming in that you need to develop to help them be able to play at a certain level so that you can accomplish some of the goals and aspirations that the team has. for themselves in terms of what they want to accomplish individually and collectively. So, and I never look back at the past. It's always about the future. And most of the things that I remember about the past are the games we didn't win, the national championship games that we lost, the games that we lost a year ago on the last play of the game, and how that impacted our chances to have a successful season and accomplish the goals that the players wanted to accomplish, and how we could have impacted that in a more positive way. I'm always looking for a better way and always looking at what can we do to be better. And that's what we continue to try to focus on in the future, and that's a challenge that we have with every team, and this team will be no different.
Coach, we'll stay in the same section over on the right aisle.
Nick back here. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Nick, you've of course placed both the coordinators before and have to do so again this year. What are the particular processes and challenges that go into getting these coaches and players to mesh in time for the season this season?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is probably relationships. I think leadership, when you're a coordinator, you're in a leadership position for the players on that side of the ball. So to have good relationships in terms of how you present, how you motivate, and the players trusting and respecting in the things that you're trying to implement, the things that we do, that they trust and believe that that's going to help them be successful. So that's number one. Number two, we've tried to mitigate the changes that a new coordinator would create for players by trying to keep the same system. And that's a little challenging sometimes when you have new coaches, because they have to learn a certain amount to be able to implement the system so it doesn't change completely for the players. But I'm really pleased with the two new coordinators that we have. Kevin Steele obviously has been with us before, so he kind of understands the program and the expectation. And you know, Tommy Reese is one of the brightest young guys I've seen for a long time in this business, so he's been a great addition and brought a lot of positives to the offensive side of the ball in terms of his ideas and how he relates to players, how he presents to players. His energy and enthusiasm on the field has been contagious, and I think I see a great trust in our players with Tommy and what he tries to do from a leadership standpoint on offense.
Coach, we'll go in the section straight in front of me, third row.
Good morning, Coach. Michael Gittins, Warport, Auburn. You've been adamant about player accountability as it pertains to their actions both on and off the field. You had a high-profile suspension in Tony Mitchell. It appears he's been able to earn reinstatement. Can you talk about what things players can do to regain the trust of the staff after these types of incidents off the field?
Look, I think there's probably some occasion where most of us in this room, including myself, did something in our life that probably wasn't a great choice and a great decision. And we always want to try to create a path for players who have made a mistake to get a second chance, but also to help educate them on what they can learn from the poor decision or judgment that they actually made. And hopefully those things don't affect other people. I think it's much more serious when those things affect other people. And so hopefully the penalties and the time missed and the education received are all going to be beneficial to the learning experience of this young man, so that he has an opportunity to get an education, become a better person, that has a better chance to be successful in life, and also can contribute to the team. So there's a process that we try to go through when we can give players a second chance. If players continue to make mistakes over and over and over and over and don't seem to learn and make progress, they'll lose the respect of their teammates. And I think that when that occurs, then maybe it would be better if the guy was not involved in the program and take opportunities someplace else. But that hasn't happened with Tony Mitchell.
Coach, we'll go to the section in the middle on the right-hand side. Go ahead, right here, second row.
Hey, Coach. Matt Cohen, AO.com. I wanted to ask, now that he's back in the conference, kind of what is your relationship with Hugh Freeze, especially now that he's on the other side of the Iron Bowl from you?
Well, I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for Hugh Freeze. He's a good friend. I thought he did a great job when he was at Ole Miss. He obviously did a really good job at Liberty, and I'm sure he'll do a very good job at Auburn. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him as a coach, and I think his history as a coach sort of speaks for itself. He's a good recruiter. They had really good players at Ole Miss when he was there, and I'm sure they'll do the same thing in this current position. So, look, I'm friends with a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys out there that work for me and did a great job, but that doesn't mean that you can't respect them, but you do have to compete against them, and that's part of it. You know, when I play golf, I play with some of my best friends, but they want to beat me and I want to beat them, and that's okay. But when the game is over, you're still friends, and that's the way it'll be probably with this. It's a great rivalry, the Iron Bowl, and being successful in that game usually has some significant impact on the SEC and the West Division. So it's a game that's really, really important to us to try to continue to be able to do the things that we need to do to be able to have success. And, you know, when we play down there, it's always been challenging.
Coach, we'll go right in front of my table on the first row. Teresa.
Over there. Teresa Walker with the Associated Press. Coach, you talk about losing players to the draft, having young teams. How much can that transfer portal be of assistance, especially as we hear across all levels of college sports, allegations of tampering and things like that? So what's your take on the portal, and how helpful can it be to get some experience when you've got a young team, thanks to the players you're losing to the draft?
Right. Well, we've continue to try to build our team through recruiting quality high school talent. And we use the portal sort of as you would use free agency in the NFL. When we feel like we have a need at a position, we would look and see if anybody's available in the portal that would, help us at that particular position. And I think this year we brought 5 guys in from the portal to complement. I think we had like 28 freshmen maybe to go with that. But I do agree with you that having experienced players, if they're the right kind of guys and they're the right kind of people and they understand the culture of what you're trying to accomplish, can be very beneficial to your team. But I think those players need to play if they're in the transfer portal. And we should therefore need them to play. There should be some need at their position so they have an opportunity to be able to contribute. And I think that's the case in most positions where we took guys this year out of the portal. Jahmyr Gibbs was a great example of a guy out of the portal who made a significant contribution to our team a year ago. But the team has to be willing to embrace those players, which our team has always done a really good job of, and they've done the same this year.
Coach, we'll go here in the center aisle, right on the near aisle.
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American-Statesman. Nick, do you have any specific impressions from your last encounter with Texas, and could you evaluate their readiness to play in this league?
Well, I can't evaluate their readiness to play in any game. I don't coach their team. I think Sark's a great coach, and I think he'll have them ready. But I think Texas has a lot of players back from last year's team. Obviously, it was a really close, tough game. Last year when we played that game, I think they're doing an outstanding job of recruiting. They're doing an outstanding job of developing the players on our team and on their team, and it's going to be a real challenging game, no doubt, because they have a lot of starters back and they have a lot of experience coming back and experienced quarterback. So we expect them to have an outstanding team.
Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side, over to the right, far section.
Good morning, Coach. George Somerville from the Touchdown in the United Kingdom. You've got a player on the roster from Finland, and you've just recruited the #1 player in Germany. As the game grows outside of the US, how necessary and how realistic is it that your recruitment expands with that?
Yeah, well, I think things are obviously a little more global maybe than they've ever been. I think, football is creating a little more of an international brand in terms of where they're playing, who's playing, how they're playing. So we had the opportunity with both, our punter is also from Australia, but we've had the opportunity to get to know these young men that we recruited from Europe, really because they came and spent a significant amount of time with us, whether it was in camp or visiting or whatever, so that we could determine, do they have the right stuff to be able to compete at this level. It was pretty easy to see they had the talent to do it, but could they understand that this is a little more competitive, the quality of ball was going to be a little different, and how are you going to respond to that? But we were excited, and with the players that we have that are international players on our team right now, and the ones that we've recruited in the past, they've all made a significant contribution. Jesse Williams was one of the first from Australia, and defensive lineman who was an outstanding player, played for the Seahawks for 4 or 5 years. So, and we feel like these guys that we've recruited, all losses on our team right now and developing nicely. And we had the young man from Germany in our camp this summer and was very impressed with him. So good additions to our team. Glad to have the opportunity.
And we have time for 2 more. We'll start over in that same section on the right.
Hey, Coach. Steve Moulton, WCCN out of Huntsville, Alabama. Hope you're doing well. First, favorite cake. Want to know your favorite cake since you mentioned that in your opening statement, but I would like you to speak to your quarterback room and your expectations to that this fall.
Yeah, well, carrot cake, that's easy. Look, I talked about expectations before, and we're focusing on how do we develop the players that we have, and we want to develop all the players. Everybody wants to know who the starter is. What about the backup guy who has to go in and play, like Jalen Milroe did last year against Texas A&M, how he finished the Arkansas game. It's important that all these guys continue to develop, and everybody at that position develops into where they can play winning football. I just think that I use the cake analogy because it's not done yet. It's not, there's not a decision that needs to be made at this point in time, nor are we ready to make that decision at this time until somebody separates themselves. But expectations, we want somebody to play winning football at that position. Quarterback is a unique position in that you distribute the ball on every play, whether you hand it off, whether you choose the play that we run, whether you hand it off, whether you throw an advantage throw, making decisions in the passing game to throw it to the right guys at the right time in the right place and accurately. So who can do that with the most consistency and be a leader on our team who has an impact on the other players is also important, because quarterback may be one of the most difficult positions to play if the people around you don't play well. So I think that's a challenge for us too, is to get the people around our quarterbacks to play well, so that's a little easier for them to be able to have success at the position when they get the opportunity.
Coach, we'll take one final question right in front.
Good morning, Coach. Ken Capps from Football Writers of America. I know it's 1 year away, but what impact do you think bringing Texas and Oklahoma is going to mean to the SEC?
Oh, I think it's a great addition to the SEC. I mean, you've got 2 great programs that have great traditions, that have great fan support. I think it, just continues to sort of the map of the SEC. It just stronger than ever. I think the competition is going to be, it's always been difficult. It's going to be even more challenging. because you got two really, really good programs who have consistently, if you look at the past, have been, top 10 programs for a lot of years, won national championships. So they're going to add a lot to the competition. I think with the new scheduling that we'll have in the future, it's more good games for fans, more diversity in who you play. So there's a lot of positives, about it. From a coaching standpoint, it's going to be much more challenging to be able to compete week in and week out, because I think when you look at the SEC, the thing that separates it is not the top, but the depth. How many good teams there are. There was one year where I think we played 9 teams. We won the championship where we played 9 teams that were in the top 15 or something. I can't remember what year. And a lot of that was you playing good teams in the playoffs, you play a good team in the SEC championship game, but you also played a whole bunch of good teams throughout the course of the season. And that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, to be able to play with a level of consistency when you have 6, 7, or 8 really difficult games as opposed to 2 or 3. Because consistency and performance and playing at a high level becomes a premium, which in all sports, that's always the challenge. How are we going to play this day? And how are we going to accept this challenge and do it week in and week out?
Coach, thank you for your time this morning.
All right, well, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank you all for what you do for college athletics. You create a lot of interest in the fan base, and a lot of positive self-gratification for, the players who play the game. And I know that we all appreciate that. You create great brands for a lot of programs, and you create a lot of interest in college football. So we thank you very much for that, and we appreciate you more than you know. So thank you very much, and roll tide. Thanks.